We are rapidly approaching the Utah spring game, and on today's show, we're going to be diving what we can expect, as well as how Utah men's basketball can finally get over the hump and eventually return to the NCAA Tournament. All that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you on the YouTube as well as on all of the social media platforms like X, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X, or my personal handle at JT Wistrcill. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wondered what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Mike Lageschulte, who works up at the University of Utah to help me break down everything going on there. We're going to be talking about a lot of different sports. Lag's also the voice of the gymnastics team, so we're going to close with that and what they were able to accomplish, as well as previewing the big regional ahead. But have to start with us closing in on the spring game, Lags, because it is something that kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. April 13th is not that far off. We're rapidly approaching the 22 Forever game, which will kick off at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and it's going to air on the Pac-12 network. The last time we'll ever see a live Utah football game, yes, they're playing themselves, but a live Utah football game on the Pac-12 network. So a little bit of an end of an era that way. But I think the spring game is really exciting because even let's take it from the media's perspective. The media only gets to go up and they even only see the last 20 minutes of a practice. And yes, you can come up and view scrimmages and all the things of that nature too. But like, this is an opportunity live in game, bunch of fans in attendance too. You've heard a lot of hype about a Brandon Rose, about a Zach Wilson, of course, too, or excuse me, and Isaac Wilson, about what they can do as well. As we know, also heard Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson not too long ago was also up at Utah's practice checking things out. But there's lots of guys we're hearing the hype about. But I think the spring games are awesome to be able to get to watch, just see what these guys can do in person if you're going to go to the game, or watching them on TV and seeing how they do over the duration of however long as they're in. Because as I said, in spring ball, just even the media portions we get to view, we only get a snippet for their talents, versus in spring game, we're going to see a lot more of these guys who could have a chance to play a big role come the fall.
It's always fun, and the media had an opportunity to watch practice a little bit last week and talk to some people, and that was their first time. And I think they got something like 11 practices left after that session, so now we're down to probably around 10 or so. And I know they had a workout scrimmage type of thing on Saturday that I heard went pretty well. And Cam Rising's been throwing, and really for Cam this spring, I mean, he's really just trying to get the rust off, right? Trying to get that arm built back up and get some work. How much he plays in the spring game, I'm not sure. Same with the other quarterbacks. I could see maybe Isaac Wilson gain some time in there just because he's young. I know Brandon Rose and Isaac are kind of battling for that number 2 spot in the spring. But Chance really during the workouts had some guys come in. I mean, you got to talk about Dorian Singer, new wide receiver who wants to get some reps. You got some guys in the safety position. I know Nate Ritchie and Jonathan Hall were mentioned last week. It's a couple of guys who've kind of established themselves in that safety position, and they really like Tao Johnson. I think he's going to be kind of a special guy. And then you got, I'm hoping to pronounce his name right, Alakai Gilman, transferred from Stanford, they really like. So I think there's some key spots in the spring JT, whether they play much in the spring game or not. These drills, these 15 drills are really important for them. And you don't need to get some look at them, but it's really just a chance to get some work in and kind of get some time together on the field. And then the spring game, at times you see guys play, other times it's a chance to watch a lot of 3s and 4s, some 2s play. But I think it's just fun for our fans, as we've really built this into a football school. We were always a basketball school back in the day. And once football took off, the spring game has really grown in importance. We got an ultimate tailgate contest where, the fans can come out and participate in that. And it's really become an event. I'm just hoping we get good weather for a change this year, JT. There's been years where, we have all these plans made for this and that. And good thing is we're not at night where the cold weather plays a factor. It's 11 a.m. where, it should be nice, but we've had more rain than not. So I'm just hoping for a nice day and a chance to show the fans a good show and And it's on the Pac-12 Network. Kind of the last time we'll interact much with them this spring, other than some football and some baseball games. But it's a chance for fans around the league to see what Utah football's got in store for 2024. And I'm sure some folks in the Big 12 will be watching to see what we've got in store as well for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun because, as you mentioned, there's some key position spots still up for grab. I've talked a lot about the battle for the safety spots. The offensive line, too. It's always a question, as we kind of mentioned, like how much hitting do they do, things of that nature. In the past, they've gotten after it pretty good, but like Caleb Lomu, how's he going to do if he sticks at left tackle? There's some pretty good defensive ends he's going to be going against. Connor O'Toole, if they throw Van Fillinger over there, other guys, Chase Kennedy, the likes of all of those potent pass rushers. Like, how is he going to hold up in a game setting? Spencer Fano on the right side. What different combinations of the offensive lines do we see? Who makes the big play, the spark? I remember Quinton Jackson made a play out of the backfield last year. He caught a screen pass and broke like 3 passes. Now, unfortunately, I don't remember him having a play like that during the fall season, but just still fun things that get you excited about, like, okay, what could the potential be of this offense clicking? And yes, I totally agree with you too. We're not going to see much of Cam Rising. If I remember correctly, 2 years ago, in the spring game, that was Devon Bailey's kind of breakout spring camp overall. It was, he made like one big throw to Vele and he threw like 4 passes overall. Cam did, and that was it. But the backup quarterback battle to me is one that's also going to be really key. You mentioned seeing some of these receivers as well too, but so many guys who, even let's look back to last year, right? Keanu Tanavasa. These are the kind of games where those guys are start making plays and doing things, stepping up in a big situation. This is by no means game intensity, but it's about as good as you can get without actually playing another team. So it's a nice opportunity for these guys to be able to step up, show their talents, and they've been working hard all spring. Opportunity to show that, and it's a great opportunity for the fans too, as you kind of highlighted, Lags.
Yeah, and 18 stars back. So there are years you're really going to find stars. This is not one of those years where you're looking to have some guys step forward. So it's mainly guys that are established. But like you just said, you got Isaac Wilson, you got Brandon Rose. I'm guessing those guys could play quite a bit in the spring game potentially, or certainly get a lot of work in the spring. You want to find out what they've got behind Cam Rising, who's your guy. And you mentioned some other position battles and some backup roles being defined. That's really what the spring is about. You leave spring ball. In most cases, you pretty much know what you've got going to fall, unless there's some injuries and some questions because of guys that way. You usually leave spring ball thinking, okay, we kind of know what we've got, or at least have a pretty good idea of what your personnel could be in the fall. And it's really just getting some reps. But you're right; it's kind of a fun time for guys to show who they are and get some reps in that spring game who might not see a lot of reps in games right away this fall.
It's a great opportunity for that, exactly. And Lags, what should people know if they want to come up to the spring game, as well as just get a little bit more invested in the Utah football program?
Yeah, we got tickets on sale for the 22 Forever game. You can get 4 for $22 for bleacher seats. You can get 2 for $22 for chair backs, and $22 in a premium seat. Just go to utahtickets.com. You can call or text 801-581-8849 to get your tickets. So the public on sale is underway, and again, hopefully the weather's good, but some really good deals on tickets. And the cool thing about this, JT, is the last few years we've had this game become not just the spring game; it's a 22 Forever game that benefits the scholarship fund for Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, and we are just shy of $1 million in that endowed scholarship. So it's right around $950 and change in terms of funds raised. We're hopeful that this spring with the spring game that, the money we raise now can get us that $1 million mark, which is a huge goal to make. And, that endowed scholarship is a great legacy to Ty and Aaron. And, we just want to make sure, one, that the fans will remember that. I think as the players, move on through the program throughout the years, there's going to be fewer and fewer guys, and soon there will be none who had ties to Ty and Aaron. And we're hoping to have this spring game, kind of as a way to just remind us about them and their spirit and what they meant to Utah football and what they stood for. And so just a great way for fans to one, remember them, come out and see some football, but also help a very important scholarship fund for us.
It's a very important thing to remember when you talk about the lasting memory of those two players. It's what makes the moment of loudness still so special too. And I think it's fantastic that you guys are still promoting that and keeping their their memory and spirit alive with everything that you guys do with the game too. So got a lot of fun stuff coming up for the football team with the spring game. But I want to talk about a team whose season just wrapped, but the college basketball, of course, men's basketball still going on in the NIT right now is the time we're recording this a little earlier in the week. But I want to talk about where Utah eventually hopes to get. That's back into the NCAA tournament. We're going to do that by talking about a lot of the teams that we got to see in action in Salt Lake City at the NCAA regional with all of you in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you about our friends at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. Let's take, for example, the North Carolina Tar Heels, who can only be described as the Armada. The one seed is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they secured a spot in the Sweet 16 after their victory as they prepare for their matchup in the Sweet 16 against Alabama. Their favorite pick by many to make a run to the championship, and it wouldn't be surprised to see them do it at all with all of the talent the Tar Heels have, led by Davis, guys like Baycott. But make sure you guys remember that you can take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. You can shop NissanUSA.com right now. I also want to talk to you all about another one of our sponsors here at the Locked On Network. It's our friends at Better Together. I want you guys to remember that with Better Together, it's the first cooperative daily fantasy sports application, Better Together. It offers a familiar experience for existing daily fantasy sports player with a social twist. You can play with a friend or a teammate, and it really provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports. It just makes you realize that daily fantasy sports is fun alone, but like a lot of other things, it's better when doing it together with friends. You can just show the synergy from working together. It gives you a chance at winning it gives you a better chance at winning than going alone. That team aspect is so important. It's a way to once again stay connected with everyone. It puts you in group chats to the test, makes you be at your best too, providing that sense of a community to just so many great ways that can get on into it too. And if your bracket's already busted, you're tired of the daily old fantasy sports grind where you make a roster, cross your fingers and hope for the best, or losing on the last leg of a pick'em entry, introducing Better Together, the first comprehensive daily fantasy sports platform where teamwork trumps talent and you can play with friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stat strategies with your partner to boost your odds and climb the leaderboards together. Grab a friend and join the daily fantasy sports movement right now. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up with promo code Locked On for a chance to win a share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Once again, remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Also want to come back in now and talk to you guys about the Utah men's basketball team, because they are, like I said, going along in the NIT now. We are recording this before their game matchup against VCU, as I blanked on it for a moment like that. So we'll see how they fare against them. But look, I'm really excited for what the team is going to be doing in the NIT. I still think when we look on this season, while it was nice to see them get to the NIT, based on how things started, the goal was the NCAA tournament. So it's still a little bit of a disappointment in that. Now, hopefully they can go on and win the NIT, something crazy like that, continue to make a run, still do a positive thing, but it's still going to be like that. We wish they would have made it in the tournament. And I thought what was really interesting, Lags, is as sports fans all across the country tend to do this time of year, we all sat down and we watched March Madness. So I think it was interesting to kind of look at and see, what do some of these other teams have on the basketball court that are in the NCAA tournament that Utah did? And obviously you could pull the biggest one is Utah's struggles to win on the road, right? But look, if I just want to be frank about what I think this Utah team needs to continue to do, I think the biggest thing is continuing to get more athletic too. You have some shooters out there too, but I just think defensively, to be able to really get after teams, create turnovers, and then transition that into offense in the transition game, I think that's a big thing. And I think you see a lot of these teams like, look, Utah's not going to become Houston basketball in a season, but if you look at some of these premier programs, their athletic wings really stand out. And Utah, while they have good shooters at those spots, like a Gabe Madsen or a Badgema in many of the ways too, and Madsen can obviously still be a part if he decided to come back of this success for sure. Badgema used up all his eligibility. He'll be gone. I just think it's important to continue to try to get more athletic, long and rangy, because it seems like that's what the top teams, that versatility is becoming more key at every level of successful basketball.
I think you're spot on, JT. Craig Smith said last week after they had the NIT bid that they're already thinking about next year in the roster and how to do it better. And he's talked to his staff about that. And I think you're right there. You're looking at Davon Smith, and from the time he stepped on the floor to what he's done the rest of the year. You've seen a difference in this team. He's an athlete. He's special. You talk about those guys on the perimeter can really, change the game and elevate everyone's level of play. That's what he's done. I think you need more guys like that. And really, JT, the formula for Utah, as well as other teams we've watched in the Pac-12 over the years, is how do you get to the tournament and make a run? If you have one NBA guy, usually you're in, maybe a second-round team. If you get two NBA guys like Utah had with DeLon Wright and Kyle Kuzma, Jakob Poeltl, it's a Sweet 16 team. And you watched Arizona, you watched Oregon, UCLA go to the Final Four. I mean, that's the formula to get it done. I think Gonzaga this year, their Sweet 16 team, maybe not as talented as some, but I think their collective and their experience kind of made up for maybe that high-end guy that they maybe don't have this year. And they also ran into a Kansas team that to me was overseeded. I love the Jayhawks, spent some time there, but you watched them late in the year. Kansas to me was not a 4 seed. They were a team that lost their best player, down to 8 guys. Who watched them play Saturday. That second half, after a really good first half of Gonzaga, they just had nothing left. I mean, they were spent. So, but again, you go back to what is the formula. In most cases, it's at least one, maybe 2 NBA guys. So if you're Craig Smith, how do you get that? And people are probably saying, well, what about Brandon Carlson? I think he's on the fringe of being a draft pick, NBA guy, but he's not been talked about as a sure first-round pick or maybe even high second. So I think is there Keba Keita could be in a couple more years with some development. Maybe he is that type of guy. But to say right now, who is your lock-in first-round draft pick, just not quite there in this roster. And then the depth. Though you look at Riley Worcester the last 2 years, JT, this Utah team, it wasn't just they got into conference play, that they lost Riley for key stretches. Riley was gone the good stretch of the year when he went down, and they just weren't the same. I mean, you talk about injuries, and some say, well, you're making excuses. And to me, there's excuses and there are reasons. Injuries to me are reasons. You can't just say, well, we can create something that's not there. You lose a key guy like him who, puts up good numbers in a lot of areas, maybe not great numbers, but does a lot of things very, very well. But just as a glue guy, the guy understands what Craig Smith wants and really gets us, it seems to be defensively locked in, especially in a row. We really missed him this year. And I think him going down the last 2 years has derailed at least one, maybe 2 NCAA tournament teams that they had set up. And because that just didn't happen. So then you go to depth, to your point. You need to have more guys who can help you overcome injuries. And like they say, talent helps lead to success, and success brings in talent. And it's kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg. Who knows? But I think for Craig, they've been so close, from a talent standpoint to make the NCAA tournament standpoint, they're right there. If they can just say, listen to a guy or two out there who's in the portal, JUCO guy, maybe a guy who's uncommitted, whatever it is, and say, listen, you can come to us with some other guys we got back we feel very good about, and Raleigh, I believe, is coming back. Say, listen, you can be our difference maker. You can be a guy who gets us over the hump, gets us in the big dance, and that's a chance to kind of sell a guy and really being the guy, putting up your numbers and showing your stock for NBA scouts for a year from now.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And I absolutely agree with everything you highlighted there. And the reason we're talking about this is, as we said, not just because the NCAA tournament going on, but it was in Salt Lake City where you were at it, you worked the event, and you got to see everything up close. So I did want to ask you, Lags, what was it like seeing former Ute Rylan Jones and Samford nearly get it done against Kansas? Talk about what it was like for the hometown kid to come back home and get to play in front of all the fans in Salt Lake.
It's fun when the brackets come out and you're hosting, because you look at the projections from CBS and ESPN, and usually if Arizona and Gonzaga are good because their top 4 seeds are going to keep them close to home in Salt Lake.
He literally said that. He said Salt Lake's been very good to us, to your point.
Yeah, they've been here a lot. It seems like every time we hosted, they're here, and New Mexico was the same way when they had it rolling. So we weren't surprised to see them, and that's just a matter of matchups. Kansas came out in 19 when we hosted, but usually if they're a 3 or higher, they're put closer to home. And like Omaha this year, they got sent out here. But it was so much fun. You talk about some of your brand names with Kansas and Gonzaga and Arizona, and that's why we got the window of games on CBS. Normally they start out east and kind of work their way out west as the day progresses. But they looked at the matchups and they saw 3 of the 4 teams that I just mentioned with Dayton. They're like, those are brand name programs that will draw some eyeballs to national coverage for a standalone window on CBS with no competition. So they came out to us first. The tip time was moved from 10:15 to 10:45, and we had early hoops in Salt Lake. And the first matchup, it kind of got away, or actually kind of tightened up, I should say. Got away early, tightened up middle, and then towards the end, Arizona pulled away and kind of just showed they're the superior team. The first half, Gonzaga, Kansas, it was great. I mean, it was a horse competition, as Bill Self said. Both teams making shots, and then Kansas ran out of gas. But to talk about Rylan Jones, and I'll get to him. It's so much fun to see a guy who decided to go someplace else. And Craig Smith came in and just said, it's time to reboot the program. He made some changes, and then Chris Jones, Ryan's dad, was not retained, so Ryan goes elsewhere and really had a nice career and got a chance to take a Stanford team to the tournament, do something special for them. He came home, he played so well. I mean, he had tissue shoved up his nose at one point, and just it's the same Ryan we've watched, as a Utah guy. Just put your nose in, get dirty, do all the little things, play hard, and unfortunately for Stanford, then officials called it, kind of robbed them a chance of having a chance to win the game. That call did not decide the game, but took away an opportunity for them to inbound the ball, have it be different than it was, and have a shot to win the game that unfortunately didn't happen. I think the official kind of got caught up in seeing contact. The key player landed awkwardly. You assumed there was contact in the foul when in truth there wasn't. It was about as clean of a block as you can make, and how that guy made that play that quickly in transition is beyond me, but he did. So that was unfortunate. But, I tell you what, JT, and in Salt Lake, we host every 3 or 4 years at the Delta Center. They've been wonderful down there to us. The basketball community turns out. They look forward to it. We had over 17,000 fans there for all of these sessions. Just a great 2 days of basketball, always fun. It's exhausting to put together and to work it, but just a lot of memories every time we host that event.
Definitely some more made this time from Ryland to all the other craziness of, Gonzaga, what is it, 9 straight Sweet 16s?
Yeah, something like that.
Unreal.
And this was a year where I didn't think they were going to get there, JT. I watched them.
Neither did I. I did pick them in my bracket. I know that.
Yeah, it might not be a tournament team, but I watched them play late in the year at St. Mary's. And that was a game where St. Mary's could have won the West Coast Conference outright, and Gonzaga handled them easily. I mean, it was a show and a half by Gonzaga. And, there's some questions about Tommy Lloyd leaving and how much that impacted Mark Few's recruiting and the makeup of his program. And certainly you look at what Tommy's done in Arizona. We saw that up close in person for 2 days this week. He's done a tremendous job quickly. But I think for Mark Few, we saw who he is as a coach. You can talk about recruiting, but in terms of getting who you have and developing them and making a team better from where they were in December to where they are now, yeah, I mentioned they caught a break by facing a Kansas team that's probably seated too high. KU probably should have been maybe more a 6 looking at their personnel now, but they still won the game. They took care of business. Now they got a chance to play another weekend, and just probably for Mark Few, one of his better coaching jobs this year, to take that team he had early on and to get them where they are right now.
Yeah, truly tremendous. And just going back to even Utah, it's going to be interesting to see if we look back on it and go, was Craig Smith able to get Utah to these points or not? That's something's going to be fascinating to watch play out. Obviously entering a tough conference in the Big 12 next year too. So we'll see how it goes from there. And, we got some time until all of the sports, of course, transition to the Big 12, one of those being the Utah Gymnastics program. And we've got to talk about just the continual history this program seems to make every single year. Lags, as you being a part of it with the voice too. We're going to dive into them in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers viewers an amazing experiences with their smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV sticks that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from all of your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at the Locked On Network and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences too. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more, and keep up on all the latest in the worlds of sports, March Madness, the NBA, MLB, and so much more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, and travel, cooking videos too. You can check it all out on Fire TV channels, on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you definitely should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, you can visit www.amazon.com/lockedon Fire TV today. Also want to tell you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more. Paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools, Elevated Checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle, security, and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protection, roadside assistance, telehealth with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay and exclusive savings on travel, shopping, and dining. And Elevated Checking is free when you do any one of the following: use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more, or maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU Elevated Checking is only $6 a month. You can visit uccu.com to open an Elevated Checking account online today, or you can stop by any branch to open that UCCU account. UCCU, love where you bank. Lags, what a weekend for the Utah Gymnastics program. And, now they're in the preparations and gearing up for regionals. But just to go back to what they did, this comes from the Utah Athletics website. The Utah Gymnastics program is coming off their fourth straight Pac-12 championship. That's right. They won it again here in 2024. Fourth straight Pac-12 championship, marking the first time a team has won 4 consecutive Pac-12 titles since the league expanded to 2012. The conference title marks Utah's 11th title overall after the Red Rocks have now claimed 7 Pac-12 championships in the last 10 years and 4 Pac-12 regular season championships. And we know Utah got the NCAA regional berth too. They'll be heading to Gainesville. But first, Lags, just walk me through what we saw from Utah this past weekend in another conference championship winning performance.
Yeah, fun for fans with the early basketball games. Everyone could go watch those at Delta Center and then head out to Maverick Center to watch Pac-12 gymnastics. There was a caravan of us making the trek out to the west part of the valley. But what a night of gymnastics. There's been years where Utah goes in as the favorite. And this year, Cal was ranked second, third in the country most of the year. They won the regular season championship outright in the Pac-12 for the first time ever. But I think we're kind of like, how do they perform when they are the team expected to win? Not just a team in a hump, but expected to win as they were Saturday. And then kind of a rough start. And then you look at UCLA, and that's a team that I believe is ranked, 10th, 11th, somewhere in that range. But they've had the talent. And they've always had these pieces together, or pieces you're like, if they can put it all together, they could be a threat to go to nationals. And right now, they were right there with the Red Rocks on Saturday. It came down to Utah and UCLA. Utah got, a 5 seed, UCLA 11th. But I tell you what, and you look at the regionals bids that came out today, you've got number 3 Cal, you got number 6 Denver. At Berkeley, you've also got number 11 UCLA. I think UCLA could take out Denver or Cal from a nationals berth. That they perform the way they did Saturday. Now, the thing with them is they've been a little bit up and down at times, but talent-wise, that they're all together on one night, they're very dangerous. I would not be surprised to see them make it to Fort Worth. But for Utah, they weren't great on beam. That's their best event. Their first 3 up on beam. They had a couple sub 9.8 scores, and they had to get it going. And it seemed like, the veterans at the end of that lineup really carried them. Grace McCallum, Abby Paulson, and then Miley O'Keefe had her 15th career 10.0 to take over the school record for career 10.0s to her by herself. She edged out Teresa Kulikowski, whom she was tied with entering the night. It was her 14th on beam. And I think that performance by her, 1, was clutch, and 2, just kind of set the tone for the rest of me. From there you go to floor. I believe every score was 9-9 or better for Utah. They had a monster score there. Went the vault, had one of their best vaulting nights of the year in terms of sticks, amplitude, distance from the table, all the things you need to score. And they marched down 6 10.0 vaults, which no one else in the Pac-12 competition could do, which will help Utah come regionals and nationals time. So, you look at their score of 198 even. Yes, it's very good. You're happy with it, but they left some tenths out there on beam. So you look ahead. They could certainly go to postseason when you have more judges who can critique small things and pick up on small things. The scores tend to average out a little bit more to what you really are as a team, as opposed to a higher score at home, lower score on the road. You get kind of more of a sense of where you are. I think Utah's a team that could throw up a 198.3 at regionals, go to nationals, and see what happens. And I think Oklahoma has kind of been a surefire number 1 the entire way. You've got LSU right there at the top as well. Cal's been there. We'll see how they perform the rest of the way. Florida's kind of been coming on as of late. It should be a great competition. But for the Red Rocks, as I mentioned, you've got Cal hosting at home as a 3 seed. UCLA is there. Utah goes out east. They have to travel ways, but I think for them, they're excited to go to Gainesville. They do a great job running competition there. Florida, the 4 seed's the host. You've got Utah there, plus number 12, Michigan State, number 13, Missouri. Missouri had a good competition at the SECs. They were in the early session, scored very well. But it's a path that I think works out well to get Utah back to Fort Worth. They've been third 3 years in a row. Would not be surprising as a 5 seed for them to edge out Florida in the national semifinal round. If it plays out that way, maybe even to beat them at home this weekend. If they don't, they're fine. You just got to be top 8 to get to Fort Worth. And I think Utah, when it comes down that last weekend, should be right there in the hunt to make that Final Four once again.
Definitely feels like it. They are extremely talented. It's going to be fun to watch it play out. And Lags, of course, we'll get to hear you calling all of it as well on ESPN 700. But outside of your work with them too, you tell us about anything else you have coming on as a director of annual giving up at the University of Utah?
Well, one, we had a great event with the Who Rocks the House Collective before the meet at Maverick Center. We had the Crimson Club and the collective there did a tailgate party, and the Big Red Bus was there, and a great fan turnout despite the weather. It was raining, but we had some tents up, and food was great. So I just want to thank everyone for coming out to that and supporting us. And, speaking of collectives, we've really, as a Crimson Club, have been working more hand in hand with them. There was a point where we were pretty much separated between Crimson Club and our department and the collectives, and now there's very much a joint relationship going on where we're helping each other. And the Crimson Collective that is organized by the Gar family has just been wonderful for us. They've really been primarily a football group first for NIL, but they've now branched into men's and women's basketball, gymnastics with trucks and SUVs for student athletes in those 4 sports. I know they want to expand beyond that, but they have launched a new website, JT. And I've had people ask me, hey, I want to get involved in NIL, but I can't give you a 4-figure gift or a 5-figure gift. How do I get involved? And right now we've got a new way to do that. The Crimson Collective's got a new website where you can sign up for a monthly membership as low as $15 a month. For just anyone can sign up and say it's a subscription like anything else for Apple Music or whatever else you want to do that can allow you to help contribute to NIL. So you can go to UtahCrimsonCollective.com, UtahCrimsonCollective.com. They relaunched their website last week, and there's some nice content there, some good feature benefits. The Utah 360 app is with them as well. Fans can get some great features on their mobile devices, watch online. So, again, for fans who are thinking beyond scholarship giving, beyond going to games, how do I help Utah athletics be at its best? Signing up for this Crimson Collective membership is a great way to do it. Like we said, if you want to have a good product on the field, on the court, NIL, whether you are big into it or kind of lukewarm, this is just kind of what it is. And for fans who want to see us continue to be at our best, this is just part of the deal now. So we encourage people to go to the website and sign up and support Utah athletics maybe in a different way than they had before.
Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always fun, JT. Appreciate it. And I like some of your predictions you slipped out there a while ago with the Sweet 16. We'll see if it plays out or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride for sure. We'll see. We'll keep track of it. Thank you again for joining us, Legs. That is gonna do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow, talking all things Utah football and Utah athletics. We look forward to seeing you then.